I will show you how to make multiple strands together and have a much thicker yarn to work with out of one ball or cone of yarn. In this case, it's really not that critical because you can go and buy as many balls of yarn as you need and just work out of three, let's say, together, and you will have three strands. But in case like this, I bought a huge cone of yarn that is very, very thin, and I need it for backing, for netting, let's say, but at the same time, for the elements or the cords, I need at least 7 strands of this yarn. It's a Italian viscose. So what do you do when you have this big, huge cone of very, very thin yarn? And I will demonstrate it on this cotton yarn because it's easier to work with. Viscose is not that cooperative. So I will show you. You have the end of yarn, tail of yarn right here. Let's say you put it right there and you create a long loop. And I will demonstrate on 3 strands, and I will show you later how you do more than 3. And then you loop it again, and you line up your loop on this side with the tail of your yarn. And you let it go to the ball of yarn. It will be your working strand right there. So right now you have 3 strands of yarn. And whatever you do, you can do a cord or motif, whatever you want. And you're going, and you have 3 strands until you get to your loop, right? So when you get to about right here with your crocheting, whatever you're doing, I don't want you to think that it's limited. You can do whatever you want with this 3 strands yarn. It's a lot thicker than this. But when you get here, what you do, you basically loop again through this loop, just like that. And you have 3 strands again. And it creates a little bump in your 3 strand. But that little bump is barely visible in your crochet. You cannot possibly find it after you finish your motif or cord or whatever you're doing. So you're basically constantly creating 3 strands. When you get to the brand new loop that you just created, you're doing the same thing. You're basically pulling the loop through the loop you had previously. And again, you have a little bump and 3 strands again. So that is the case of 3 strands. Let's say you want to create 5, 7. It's always the odd number, and I will tell you why, because you really, well, I don't know. You probably can create even number. I haven't tried, but maybe if you get really creative, it's easier to create odd number. So let's say we want to create 5 strands. So we're doing a loop like we did for the 3, just like that, right? And we have 3 strands until we get here. But if you want to create 5, if you want to create 5 strands for yourself right now to begin with, you create another loop of yarn right there with the loop on the side of the tail the same length as all the other ones. And now you have 2 different size lengths loops. They need to be different lengths. Otherwise, you not will be able to have 5 loops. And you let your yarn go to the ball of yarn. That will be your working strand. So you're going to have right now, if you pick your yarn right here and start your crochet, you will have 5 strands. When you hit this loop, you are going to have only 3. After each loop, you're losing 2 strands of yarn. Like after this first loop, you're going to have 3. After this one, you're going to have only 1. So when you hit your first loop and you're losing 2 strands, you're creating extra 2 strands by looping through the short loop. You loop through the short loop just like that and creating a longer loop than your longest. So right now you can see this is a working yarn, and you have very long loop, shorter loop, and shorter loop that we pull the thread through and got the long loop. So now you're going to have 5 strands right here, 5 strands right there on this stretch because you just looped through it. And when you're losing your 5 strands, it's time to loop from the working yarn again. So that's the madness. Whenever you lose your 2 strands, is to loop even longer loop than your longest one. So when you get here, you will loop again. When you get here, you will loop again. So that's basically how it works. So I hope it helps. It's a little, I guess when you already crocheting, it becomes very easy. It's just I don't want to waste your or my time and crochet with you. But it will create those little bumps that are completely invisible in a crochet, but you're constantly going to have the equal amount of strands, and they're going to be 3, 5, 7, or as many as you want. Of course, I would recommend to go with 3. It's just easier to work because the yarn is not twisted. So it's not very easy to work with stranded yarn if it's not twisted. But it really depends. With my very thin yarn that I purchased, I'm worried that I will have to go to 7 strands for the elements, but we'll see. So anyway, if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks. Bye.